Whatever the hour, whatever the film or the Eurovision drama, it's coffee time. This is Emmanuel calling from Coffee Break, where we take a break and discuss about films, Eurovision and much more. Grab yourself a mug of hot tea or coffee, take a sip and let's dive into this. Let's talk about my final predictions for the 2026 Academy Awards. So, what I am going to do is briefly talk about who do I think is in, and at the end of each category I'm going to give you my alternate of who I would swap if I were to make a change in my predictions. Kicking things off with Best Picture. Now, my top 6 are pretty much locked. One Battle After Another, Sinners, Marty Supreme, Hamnet, Sentimental Value, and Frankenstein, I think, are all in firmly. They're not missing out. Congratulations, you're in Best Picture. Now, for the last 4 slots, I do have a few more out there, sort of wacky predictions, but I do think that The Secret Agent is safely in after its overperformance in all the precursors, well, except for SAG, but of course it was expected to miss out on that one, but the rest of the precursors embraced The Secret Agent with their full heart. I mean, they gave Wagner Moura Best Actor at Golden Globes, and he was nominated at Critics' Choice, even though Sandra Hüller wasn't, I believe, nominated for Anatomy of a Fall a few years back. Sure, I think they apologized for that, but that just goes to show that Wagner Moura is an awards contender, and I do think that he's going to be in the final 5 for Best Actor. And I am predicting, well, we're going to get into that, a surprise director nomination that I just spoiled, but that's fine. Anyway, I do think that The Secret Agent is in Best Picture. And moving on to a film that I was ready to write completely off until it was apparent to me that Begonia is apparently getting in Best Picture, and I can't talk myself out of it anymore, because it has appeared in every list lineup that it could have appeared, and I do think that Emma Stone she's probably in at Best Actress. I do think that Jesse Plemons showing up in SAG shockingly is a fairly major indication that Begonia is taken seriously in the awards conversation, and for lack of a better alternative, and because I think that it can also get in adapted screenplay, and BAFTA obviously really embraced that. I mean, Yorgos Lanthimos made the best director long list, which is insane, but I do think that Begonia has a very, very strong chance of slipping in Best Picture in these last few slots. And then number 9, I do have Train Dreams, which it's not a person, which I love. I love that film, beautiful, and I do think that it getting in Best Picture is not a stretch. I do think that it can pick up a few key nominations along the way that are going to be just enough to have it squeak in at slot number 9 or 10 in Best Picture. And then number 10 could have gone in multiple directions. I ultimately went with Blue Moon. Yes, you heard me right. I do think that Blue Moon, well, it's actually my personal pick for the 10th slot at Best Picture. I think that it just barely makes it in. It's just a hunch. I haven't seen the film, but hey, I mean, it does have Best Actor prospects for sure. I think that It might get a few other surprise nominations that I'm going to get into, and since there is a severe lack of a more compelling alternative, I do think that Blue Moon is in a way the safe choice here, because it's sort of an biographical film and it's sort of a little bit Oscar baity. I think also both Linklater films, Richard Linklater's films appearing in the Best Picture Drama lineup in Golden Globes, that's not nothing. I don't think that that's nothing. So, spoiler alert, I do think that both of them are getting surprise nominations in the Oscars, so stay tuned for that. But yes, I think that F1 would be my alternative here, and I could have gone again in multiple directions. I mean, Weapons has a shot of squeezing in, that would be a cool nomination. Weapons in Picture. There are a few other films that are sort of floating around, but I do think that F1 would be my safer alternate, so I'm going to go with F1 as my alternative pick. But my final predictions for Best Picture in the Oscars are One Battle After Another, Sinners, Marty Supreme, Hamnet, Sentimental Value, Frankenstein, The Secret Agent, Bugonia, Train Dreams, and Blue Moon. Moving on to Best Actress, I do think that Jessie Buckley is sweeping the entire season, and she's bonkers brilliant in Hamnet, so that would be a deserved winner, and she's of course nominated. She's definitely going to be nominated, and then I do think that Rose Byrne is also a firm lock here. She has appeared everywhere that she could, and she won Golden Globe musical or comedy. Granted, there wasn't that much competition, but she did pull off that win, and I do think that she would also deserve to be nominated. So there you go. And then Renate Reinsve, I will try to pronounce that name correctly at some point during the awards season, but I do think that she's in. I know she was snubbed at SAG, and all 4 actors missing out in the actor awards is not nothing. I get that, but I don't think that she's going to be the one who's getting snubbed here from these 4 excellent performers that deliver such compelling work in Sentimental Value. So I do think that she's in. Emma Stone, I finally had to accept the fact that she's way too strong in this awards race. Her also carrying Jesse Plemons along for the ride in the Actors Awards is also a major push for her and the film, and despite her lack of campaign and the fact that her performance, well, she's perfectly fine in the film. She wouldn't be my personal pick per se, but again, I can picture all the other women that I'm briefly going to talk about. I can picture all of them sort of missing out ultimately at the end of the day. That's not the case with Emma Stone. I think that she's safely, well, I'll give it 8% chance, but that's besides the point because I have her in my final 5. So Emma Stone in, and then at number 5 I have Kate Hudson. Yes, Kate Hudson is in for Song Sang Blue. I think that she's going to pull off that lone nomination. I haven't seen the film, it hasn't come out, but I mean in my region. But her getting at the Actor Awards and the Golden Globes, and yeah, potentially at BAFTA. I mean, we can only assume But I do think that Kate Hudson can pull off that sort of veteran, familiar face nomination that we often get in the Academy Awards. And I mean, my alternate would be Chase Infinity for One Battle After Another, but swapping Emma Stone or Kate Hudson for Chase Infinity would seem way far off as a possibility for me. I could see Chase Infinity being getting in, but I don't know. I have this really strong hunch that Kate Hudson, it seems like a very Beatty performance, very sequiny. I mean, she wears a lot of sequins. That's what I mean by sequiny. But there's something about that sort of makes me picture her as an Oscar nominee. So my alternate would be Chase Infinity, but my final prediction for Best Actress is Jessie Buckley, Hamnet, Rose Byrne, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, Renate Reinsve, Sentimental Value, Emma Stone, Begonia, and Kate Hudson, Song Sang Blue. Moving on to Best Actor, Timothée Chalamet. I can't wait to watch that film. I hopefully will watch it tomorrow. But I'm obviously extremely eager to see what else he has to offer. I think that he's winning the Oscar, even though I haven't watched Marty Supreme yet. But sure, he's definitely in. This is my prediction for who's getting in, not for who's winning. That's going to come after the nomination reveal. So he's obviously in. And then Leonardo DiCaprio, obviously in. He's coming along for the ride. And then I do have Ethan Hawke safely in. Come on, if Ethan Hawke misses out, it's so strange because I haven't watched Blue Moon, and apparently there is not going to be a distribution for that film, unfortunately. So I might have to watch it at home on demand. But that man, he's just he's one of my personal favorite actors out there. He was so good in Black Phone 2 and 1, so I think that it would be so amazing to see Ethan Hawke at the Oscars again, and I do think that if he pulls off a SAG win, we might actually have a dark horse in our hands. But him appearing everywhere, he could not missing out on any beat, any step of the way during this award season, just goes to show how much the voters care for this sort of comeback. I mean, it's also a transformative performance. There's makeup involved. That's it. I think Ethan Hawke is in. Please, I'm rooting for him, even though I haven't watched the film, which is rare, extremely rare. But I love that man so much that I do want to see him in, and I do think that I will. Number 4, I have Wagner Moura, who just won a Golden Globe Award for The Secret Agent, and I think that he's firmly in. He's my international pick. We could see a Fernando Torres deja vu moment, as we have thus far. I mean, literally, he's followed every one of Fernando Torres's footsteps, getting snubbed at SAG, and he's not longlisted in the BAFTA long lists, and him winning the Best Actor Drama prize at Golden Globes. This is literally Fernando Torres 2.0 plus Critics' Choice, plus his film is much more talked about and might get a surprise director nomination, and it's much more safely in Best Picture than I'm Still Here was at this point of the race. So he's definitely in. And then for my 5th slot, I could have gone with Jesse Plemons. I could have gone with Michael B. Jordan, but my pick is actually, surprisingly enough, Joel Edgerton for Train Dreams. There's something about that performance, that the subtlety, there's something about it that just compels me to predict him. I did want to sort of make some... what I'm trying to say is that I did really want to have some riskier, more out there, wacky predictions, because going safe is not always the safest route, believe it or not, strangely enough. That's what I've sort of figured. So the safe pick would be Michael B. Jordan. I don't think that he's even my alternate. My alternate would be Jesse Plemons, just because he got that SAG nomination and surprise SAG nomination, and it also now being a, for me, firm Best Picture player. Begonia, the film itself, I do think that he does have a shot. I don't think that at the end of the day he makes it, that's why he's my alternate. But my final predictions for Best Actor are Timothée Chalamet, Marty Supreme, Leonardo DiCaprio, One Battle After Another, Ethan Hawke, Blue Moon, Wagner Moura, The Secret Agent, and Joel Edgerton, Train Dreams. Moving on to Best Supporting Actress, Teyana Taylor is now my pick to win the Academy Award after her win and beautiful speech that she gave at Golden Globes. So I do think that she's firmly in, she's a lock, as is Amy Madigan, who won at Critics' Choice and potentially is winning at SAG, and I think that, or the Actor Awards, or whatever. She's so freaking amazing in Weapons, and I would love to see that nomination happen, and I do think that I will. Inga Ipsoter Lilias, she's not getting snubbed here. The power of that performance is not for the long lists. It's not for the snub list. She's firmly in based on how good she is in the film, I think. And if one of my sentimental value girls is snubbed, which I do think that's happening, I don't think that Inga Ipsoter Lilias is the one. So she's in. Wunmi Mosaku, after getting in at Critics' Choice and then at SAG, she's safely in. I don't see any actors. I don't see like a complete blank when it comes to acting nominations for Sinners. That could happen, but between Michael B. Jordan and Wunmi Mosaku, this is a much less crowded field, and her getting in at those placings, I just get this feeling that she's going to be the one who's going to be nominated and not Michael B. Jordan. And then number 5, surprisingly, I have Odessa Azion for Marty Supreme. Haven't watched the film. Her getting at SAG, or afterwards, I'm sorry, I have to get used to calling that precursor the Actor Awards. But her getting in there gives me major Monica Barbaro vibes. Her being sort of a co-lead to Timothée Chalamet, who is an awards player, huge frontrunner at this point. Sort of gives me that a complete unknown correlation vibe. But she's a fresh, young face, and I just think that she's getting in based on that lone Actor Award nomination. My alternate pick, who I could also picture getting in, is Ariana Grande for Wicked for Good. That would be my alternate pick, but finally, at the end of the day, I'm going with these 5 actresses. My final predictions for Best Supporting Actress is Teyana Taylor for One Battle After Another, Amy Madigan, Weapons, Inga Ipsoter Lilias, Sentimental Value, Wunmi Mosaku, Sinners, and Odessa Azayon for Marty Supreme. Moving on to Best Supporting Actor, Stellan Skarsgård in, Benicio del Toro in, Sean Penn in. Hopefully, I mean, if that man is snubbed, I'm going to completely go mad at the Academy for snubbing such a out of this world, bonkers, brilliant performance. And then Paul Mescal, he couldn't be more in, honestly. If he got in everywhere, and it's also definitely getting in at BAFTA, so he's in. And then number 5, Jacob Elordi. That's it. This is the 5. Anyone getting snubbed here would be a major shock. My alternate, surprisingly enough, this might surprise you or not, it's Andrew Scott for Blue Moon. Yes, I do think that Blue Moon can get that picture, actor, original screenplay, and potentially a supporting actor coattailing Ethan Hawke. And even if it misses out on picture, this could be, at the end of the day, the apprentice of this year. We were talking about The Smashing Machine being sort of the apprentice of this year. I'm of course referring to the apprentice film from last year, who offered Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong 2 surprise lone acting nominations, sort of one coattailing the other, the first one having a lot of makeup like Ethan Hawke in this film. There's correlation here, and it's a much less controversial film, Blue Moon, than The Apprentice was. I mean, no doubt about that. So him getting at BAFTA, which I cannot confirm because they're not, the nominations aren't out, and they're not going to be before the Oscar nominations, but I think that he might get in BAFTA and then shock us everyone and sleep in Best Actor. But then who do I take out? I really don't want to get into that sort of frame of mind, so my final predictions are Stellan Skarsgård, Sentimental Value, Benicio del Toro, One Battle After Another, Sean Penn, One Battle After Another, Paul Mescal for Hamnet, and Jacob Elordi, Frankenstein. My alternate would be Andrew Scott, but we're moving on to who do I think gets in Best Director, shall we? This is such a tough and crowded category, to be honest. There is Paul Thomas Anderson, Chloe Zhao, Ryan Coogler has become one of my personal locks, apparently. I was doubting him viciously, but at the end of the day, there is too much strength to his name, and it's one of... I'm allowed to at least have one prediction in because other people have, and this is my sort of peer pressure, or yes, peer pressure sort of prediction, because I do think that he did a fairly remarkable work in Sinners, and I think that it would be a deserved nominee, and both Coogler, predicting both Coogler and Michael B. Jordan to be snubbed, I think that would be a little bit weird, and don't think that it ultimately could happen, so I have him in. And then Joachim Trier, doubt him as much as you want. Joachim Trier is going to be in the final 5 for Best Director at the Oscars. Come on, his work is so freaking, honestly, brilliant in Sentimental Value, and I do think that he's finally getting his flowers. And shoot me now, I think that Kleber Mendoza Filho is getting that surprise director nomination for his work at The Secret Agent. Haven't watched that film, but its recent surge is so unbelievably strong that I think that it's going to push him to sort of slip in barely at that number 5 slot. And as I said, I'm all about wacky, risky picks here, and he would definitely be one, but I'm not just putting him in for the sake of taking a risk. I do think that the Jafar Panahi sort of slight sort of fall, him not winning practically anything during this the major televised precursor that do put him a little bit out of the race. I don't make me don't think. I'm not claiming that it was just an accident is going to blank at the Oscars, even though I did have it out of Best Picture. I think that he's also missing out on director, but don't worry, I do think that he is firmly in at original screenplay, but we'll get into that. And then Josh Safdie would also be a very compelling alternate, and I could also see Guillermo del Toro slipping in, so it's such a tough race here. So my alternate would surprisingly be Guillermo del Toro, because the Academy loves him, and I don't know, I mean, he's my alternate. So my final predictions for Best Director are Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another, Chloe Zhao, Hamnet, Ryan Coogler, Sinners, Joachim Trier, Sentimental Value, and Kleber Mendoza Filho, The Secret Agent. When it comes to original screenplay, Sinners, Sentimental Value, It Was Just an Accident, and Marty Supreme are firm locks. My pick for the fifth slot, I'm actually going out on a limb and putting Blue Moon in because I have it at picture, and I think that that sort of picture, screenplay, and actor combo, 1, 2, 3 of a punch, might as well happen. Andrew Scott could surprise, but I'm currently predicting this 5, and then for my alternate, that's also a huge sort of conundrum, because I think that Sorry Baby, I believe it's having a quiet surge that might actually have it sort of rise up to a shocker surprise nomination for Best Original Screenplay, and that could happen actually instead of Blue Moon. But Weapons also getting at PGA, that was also quite huge for that film, which I predicted, by the way. And it getting slipping in original screenplay would also be a fairly reasonable pick, and that would also be a major push for Amy Madigan as well. And The Secret Agent, I do think that it could get a surprise original screenplay nomination, but I think that its surprise above the line nomination would be in Best Director. So my alternate here is Sorry Baby, Eva Victor. She might actually pull that off, but right now my final prediction for Best Original Screenplay is Sinners, Sentimental Value, It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, and Blue Moon. When it comes to adapted screenplay, I have One Battle After Another, Hamnet, and Begonia, and actually I do have Frankenstein as those 4 firm locks. And then number 5, I have Train Dreams. I think that its strength as a film, I think that its sort of overperformance in multiple categories, all around a variety, a wide range of precursor and televised awards shows, even appearing in sort of the American Society of Cinematography, puts it firmly in the cinematography category, which we'll get into much later. But I think that it's getting that Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay, and my alternate would be a film that I would so much hope for it to get in Best Adapted Screenplay, even if that would be the only nomination that it could get. But it's Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. I mean, come on, the first 2 Knives Out films were nominated in that category, and please just make that happen, please. I love Rian Johnson so much. I love the screenplay of that film so much. Extremely complex, layered. That screenplay is such a memorable, bonkers, extraordinary work. of screenplay writing. So I do think that it would be such a deserved nominee, but that I'm going to go with that as an alternate, and my final predictions are One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Bugonia, Frankenstein, and Train Dreams. Let's move on to Best Casting. I'm going to briefly talk about this category because I actually have no idea who's getting in. These 5 films have all very notable casts, and they're all surely like best picture logs. So we could get sort of an alternate, sort of a surprise, I don't know, weapons casting nomination or something along those lines. But my final predictions for best casting is One Battle After Another, Sinners, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, and Sentimental Value. I'm sorry if I don't have anything more in depth to add, but I literally have no idea of how this category works. Perhaps in future award races I might have a clearer picture. So, moving on to Best International Feature. Please don't shoot me. I think that we're going to get a shock, honestly devastating, no other choice blank at the Oscars. It missing out in picture, best actor and director, and adapted screenplay and editing. Those are really gigantic snubs there. But it also missing out in best international feature is a extremely long, dangerous shot that I'm currently predicting. Shoot me, but I don't care. I think that Secret Agent, It Was Just an Accident, Sentimental Value, and Sherat are in. They couldn't be more in. And then in my 5th slot, instead of No Other Choice, I have an Argentinian film, I believe, that is sort of, I don't know, there's something about it that I can sense surging. There's something about it, that gut feeling that this Amazon Prime Argentinian film is going to receive a surprise international feature nomination. No Other Choice is, of course, my alternate pick here, but my final predictions are The Secret Agent, It Was Just an Accident, Sentimental Value, Sherat, and Belen. When it comes to Best Documentary Feature, The Perfect Neighbor, 2000 Meters to Andriivka, both are firm locks. I think that Come See Me in the Good Light is also a firm lock since it overperformed at the long lists, it getting in at Best Original Song. And then Apocalypse in the Tropics is a slowly surging documentary from Netflix that's I think that is getting in. And then at number 5 I could have gone with Cover Up, which I also think that is surging and is also a very compelling, would be a compelling alternate. But 3 Netflix documentaries getting in, The Perfect Neighbor also being distributed and produced by Netflix, so that would also be a little bit too much of a stretch, I think. And because I've watched My Undesirable Friends Part 1 last air in Moscow, it made my honorable mentions. It's one of the best, most important, impeccable films of 2025. I love that documentary. I was so riveted throughout its 5.5 whatever hours. It's such a major work of non-fiction. I think that based on the power of its merit, of its sort of importance, I think that it's going to be in. This could be a long shot. Cover Up could also appear. But I'm thinking too much about it. I think that My Undesirable Friends, really, really terrific documentary. Go watch it. And it's currently also getting in at the shortlists, also showcases strength. So my alternate would be Cover Up, but my final prediction for Best Documentary Feature is The Perfect Neighbor, 2000 Meters to Andrivka, Come See Me in the Good Light, Apocalypse in the Tropics, and My Undesirable Friends Part 1, The Last Air in Moscow. Best Animated Feature, K-Pop Demon Hunters, obviously Zootopia 2, Arco and Little Amelie are all logs, all 4 films. And then at number 5 I have this Netflix animation which I watched on a lazy night, and I had plenty of fun with In Your Dreams. It's a fun little animated film. It was decent, and I think that Elio, obviously it's my alternate here, but I think it ultimately misses out because of its underperformance in the box office and sort of underperformance generally with the critics, and there's something about it that just doesn't scream sort of urgent to nominate. And I think that Netflix is going to kill it with their campaign for K-Pop Demon Hunters, and In Your Dreams I think is also coming along for the ride. So my alternate is Elio, but my final predictions are K-Pop Demon Hunters, Zootopia 2, Arco, Little Amelie, and In Your Dreams. Moving on to Best Cinematography, I think Train Dreams, Sinners, One Battle After Another, all 3 films are firm locks. And then I have Marty Supreme. Darius Khondji is a veteran. He was not absent from the American Society of Cinematographers Guild nominations. So off of these, I think that Frankenstein could be the one who's that's snubbed, even though it doesn't really make sense, and there are a lot of films that wouldn't make sense to be snubbed. But I still think that they will, like Frankenstein, like Hamnet, like plenty of other contenders. But I think that Marty Supreme is getting in based on the recognition and the respect that Darius Khondji has from the cinematographers branch. And finally, I'm going out on a enormous limb here and predicting Nouvelle Vague. Yes, you heard me right. Nouvelle Vague to get in Best Cinematography would be an absolute delight to see and a shocker, but you know what? Both Linklater films appearing in the Best Picture drama lineup at Golden Globes is not nothing, and I think both of them are getting in the Oscars, even if barely so. I think that they're in, so I can definitely picture and currently predicting a lone cinematography nomination for Nouvelle Vague. My alternate pick would also surprise you. It's F1, because also the cinematographer is sort of a beloved figure in the cinematography branch, and that film also has some really stunning cinematography. So that would be my alternate. But my final predictions for Best Cinematography is Train Dreams, Sinners, One Battle After Another, Marty Supreme, and Nouvelle Vague. When it comes to Best Editing, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Hamnet, and Sentimental Value, I think, are firm locks. And then at number 5, I have F1, which is also a lock, I would say. And as an alternate, I could go on multiple different directions. I think Frankenstein potentially has a shot at editing. Sinners also, but those are sort of the best picture, so they end up at best editing films, and I'm sick of those. I mean, if you're not deserving of a best editing nomination, why have it? Just because you're in best picture over a film that might not be in best picture and might have sort of better or showier or just more editing, and more is not always better, but the way that the award voters think, they're sort of pimps, as I've briefly talked about. They don't always nominate the best edited film, but the most edited film. I mean, if Bohemian Rhapsody could win best editing for that sort of over-edited barrage of cuts that Bohemian Rhapsody was, and I'm not I mean, I still enjoyed the Rami Malek performance. I think that was really brilliant, but the rest of it, the editing, just wasn't good enough to be nominated, let alone win. So I'm rambling here just to say that my wacky, risky, alternate pick would actually be this kind of sorcery is dangerous in me. It's gonna blow a skyscraper high. Your sensuality is stirring something deep, unless it's all a trick of the night. My heart is made of dynamite. That's Dynamite, performed by Marcus Riva. But that's not a film. That's not a film. That's a song. I love that song. Shout out to Marcus Riva. That man I absolutely love, but that's not the film I'm currently predicting as an alternate to get into best editing. That would be Catherine Bigelow's House of Dynamite. That film, I haven't watched that. It used to be a film that I believed would get in at best picture, but that's not happening probably. I mean, it's in my other 10 picks, but a lone editing nomination is not too far out of the question. I think it appearing at Critics' Choice, and also me predicting it to also appear in BAFTA in Best Editing. I think that it would be a fairly risky and sort of exciting alternate, so I'm going to go with that one as an alternate and predict my final picks to be Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Sentimental Value, and F1. Best Production Design, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Sinners, and honestly, Wicked for Good, I think, are all locks. Wicked for Good getting at production design would be a sign of strength, and at this moment we can only see signs of weakness for that film. I think that it's missing out on Best Supporting Actress, and obviously Actress and Adapted Screenplay, and on all of the above the line categories, but it getting everywhere in each shortlist that it could, I think does indicate some level of care and strength and sort of support from the awards voters. So is that enough to make me predict it for Best Picture? Not necessarily, not far out of the question, but not at this current point. Or Best Supporting Actress. But this might as well mean that it's in Best Production Design, even if it's not in Best Picture, because believe it or not, there's a fairly high correlation between Best Picture and Best Production Design. So I'm currently predicting that, and then at number 5 I have Avatar, Fire and Ash and then at number 5 I have Avatar, Fire and Ash And finally, I have Avatar, Fire and Ash, based on the sheer extravagance of its production design, which was honestly awe-inspiring to see. My alternate would probably be... who would be my alternate here? I can't go out on a limb and predict a lone production design nomination. That would be kind of absurd and silly of me. So I'm ultimately going to go with Marty Supreme. Marty Supreme is my alternate for best production design, but my final predictions are Frankenstein, Hamnet, Sinners, Wicked for Good, and Avatar, Fire and Ash. Best costume design, I have Frankenstein, Wicked for Good, Hamnet, Sinners, because it's a period production, and finally I have The Testament of An Lee as an alternate here, as my pick for the 5th slot. Sorry, it blanking at the BAFTA long lists, even in Best Actress, nowhere to be seen, is pretty indicative of its ultimate fall from the awards race. I mean, that film is cooked. I mean, it's almost burnt. It's almost ashes. It's sort of this. It's this sort of burned, sort of forgotten piece of burned toast. This film. And why do I think it's getting in at costume design? Lack of a better alternative. Because it's... I don't know. I mean, this could be a no nominations films, but I'm currently predicting it because of the showiness of the costumes, and because I do want to have some variety in my predictions, some risks, as I said, and I think that Testament of An Lee can get a lone costume design nomination, though, so that's enough for me. And my alternate pick would actually be Hedda. Kiss of the Spider-Woman could also show up, but that's not going to be my alternate. I think Hedda has a fair shot at getting in at costumes, so that would be my alternate. So my final predictions for best costume design is Frankenstein, Wicked for Good, Hamnet, Sinners, and The Testament of An Lee. Best makeup and hairstyling, Frankenstein, Wicked for Good, The Smashing Machine, all 3 locks, and then I do have One Battle After Another in as sort of an overperformance surprise nomination because of Sean Penn's lips at the final sort of act of the film. I think that's enough for it to slip in best makeup. And then at my number 5 slot, I have The Alto Nights, which is a film directed by Barry Levinson, starring Robert De Niro in a dual role, one of the many that we had in 2025. I've watched the film. It's a fairly languid and plodding film. I didn't very much respond to it, but there is some showy makeup and hairstyling, and I think that it's one of those films that's getting in at the Oscars, and everyone's like, what that film? What's that film about? So I do think that there's something about it that it's sort of my sort of wacky, risky hunch. And my alternate would be... who would be my alternate here? 28 Years Later. Yes, that's my alternate, but my final predictions for best makeup and hairstyling is Frankenstein, Wicked for Good, The Smashing Machine, One Battle After Another, and The Alto Nights. When it comes to best visual effects, I think that there have been a few major snubs here, like Fantastic Four, but I'm going with Avatar, Fire and Ash, obviously, and then F1, Superman, Sinners. Yes, Sinners is getting in at visual effects. And finally, I've really experimented with a few fifth slot picks here, like LiQWYD for Good, or The Lost Bus, or Jurassic World Rebirth. But I ultimately went with Tron Ares based on the stunning beauty of its visual effects. And I do think that Jurassic World could also slip in, as well as LiQWYD for Good or The Lost Bus. And it's really, really tough. But I have to make a final decision here, and Tron Ares popping up at best score, I believe, but definitely best song and I think sound. There's something about it that that just sort of reads as overperformance, sort of in the shortlist. So based on that hunch, I think that Tron Ares is going to be in best visual effects ultimately at the end of the day, and my alternate pick would be, it's tough. There are 3 alternate picks here. My alternate pick would actually be LiQWYD for Good. I mean, sure, LiQWYD for Good is going to be my alternate. But my final predictions is Avatar, Fire and Ash, F1, Superman, Sinners, and Tron Ares. Best sound, my locks are F1, Sinners, Avatar, Fire and Ash. Yes, I think that's in sound. I watched the film and the sound was just so impeccable. I loved that sound editing and mixing, and everything was just superbly done. And then Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, doubt it's all you want. It's in the Oscars, perhaps not in visual effects, which was snubbed in the shortlists, but it getting no nominations, that's absurdly out of the question for me, so it's in. And then at number 5 I have Sharad. I think that it gets one surprise nomination outside of international feature. It could be picture, it could be director, it could be score, but I think that it's ultimately going to be sound. And my alternate pick would probably be Frankenstein, sure, but my final predictions are, for best sound, are F1, Sinners, Avatar, Fire and Ash, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and Sharad. For best score, I have Ludwig Göransson and his really excellent score. For best score, I have Sinners, One Battle After Another, and Hamnet as firm locks. And then I think Alexander Desplat and his beautiful Oscar-worthy work in Frankenstein is not going to be sidelined or snubbed. And then at number 5, kick me in the balls if you want. I don't care. I think Hans Zimmer is coming for his, I have lost the count, Oscar nomination for his really cool techno, really clubby sort of score for F1. I think that I'm ready for that nomination. I predicted that correctly all season long, and now I think it's happening. I think that as an alternate, there are multiple directions that I could go. And I'm currently going with, actually, Nicolas Britell for Jay Kelly as my alternate pick here. Could Jay Kelly blank at the Oscars? Absolutely, it could. Right now, there is very little sign of strength. It's basically cooked, and I don't think that Adam Sandler is ultimately going to make it either. But that score is it's just a gorgeous score, and I think that if it gets one as Oscar nominations, almost had a stroke there. It's going to be in score. But my final predictions for for best score are Sinners, One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Frankenstein, and F1. And finally, the last category that I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about best documentary short or live action short and an animated short, because I have no idea about how those categories sort of work, and I've watched none of the potential nominees, and I just went with whatever was more popular and was sort of lately surging in the app. So I'm not going to talk about those categories, but best original song, I do have my picks here, and those are Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters. Love that film. Yes, that film and that song. That song has been looping in my Spotify playlist. It's such a really great song. I love it. Love Golden. And every spin of that song sort of gives me that empowerment that I want and need, and I love it, and I think that it's winning and in. And then I Lied to You from Sinners, obviously in. And then one Wicked song, I think it's going to be Girl in the Bubble. And then Train Dreams, the song from Train Dreams, performed by Nick Cave. Beautiful. Would really like to see that getting in, and I think that it also will. And finally, who else? You guessed it right, Diane Warren, who has, I don't know, more than 10 nominations. Just give her an Oscar. And already I have no idea why they keep nominating her, but she's still clinging on to the awards body. So she comes up with a song this year, so she's obviously in. As an alternate, I would go with the other Wicked song. I believe it's called No Place Like Home or something along those lines. But my final predictions is K-pop Demon Hunters, Sinners, Wicked for Good, Train Dreams, and Diane Warren. But my final predictions are Golden, I Lied to You, The Girl in the Bubble, Train Dreams, and Dear Me from the Diane Warren documentary thing. And that is a wrap. Thanks so much for watching, I do appreciate it. Also, make sure to follow me on multiple social media platforms, including Letterboxd, for more film-related content and the Awards Expert app for real-time Oscar predictions. The links are in the description. Can't wait for more coffee breaks. And until next time, pour yourself a fresh one.